Well, today is by far the biggest day on the primary calendar. 1/3 of all delegates are up for grabs as Americans go to the polls in more than a dozen states and one American territory. Former President Donald Trump holding a commanding lead over Nikki Haley, former South Carolina governor, with 273 delegates compared to Haley's 43.
And Trump has won every single state so far. Although Haley did win the District of Columbia, still won't officially clinch the nomination today when it comes to totaling up delegates. President Biden isn't facing any major competition. Nikki Haley, however, remaining optimistic that she can make history across America today. Watch.
Don't complain about what happens in a general election if you don't play in this primary. It matters. It matters. We can do better than two 80-year-old candidates for president. In a general election, we're given a choice. In a primary, we make our choice. It's time for us to make that choice.
Let's talk all about Super Tuesday with our political panelist. Armen Kurdian is a Republican strategist. He joins us live. Jonathan Harris is a Democratic strategist joining the program. And here in studio, Mehek Cooke is a Republican consultant and attorney. Welcome, everyone, and thanks so much for coming on today. Super Tuesday is a big day. It's exciting. There are a lot of delegates up for grabs. Perhaps 2024 is not as unpredictable as other years have been. But Armen, start us off. Talk to me about what you're looking for when it comes to the Republican side, the Republican primary here. Could this be sort of the end of the line when it comes to Nikki Haley and her own ambitions to become president?
Good morning, Sean and Emma. Well, to put it bluntly, I think there's a small chance that Donald Trump will win 15 of the races today. More likely, he's going to win all 16 of them. Nikki Haley simply doesn't have a path to victory. I expect Trump to win about 600 to 650 delegates today, which will get him close to 900. It's going to be an insurmountable lead, but it's also very important for Republicans to understand it's not just the president you're voting for today on this Super Tuesday. You've got down ballot races, city councils, school boards. Make your voice heard. Get out there and vote. Whether or not you think Donald Trump's going to win, get out there, vote for Trump, vote for those down ballot races, and then this is how Republicans eventually go out and win. So voting is very important.
Yeah, in terms of your civic duties, yeah, absolutely. Today, maybe it may not cross your mind. A lot of down ballot races, as Armen was mentioning there. Jonathan Harris, I'd love to go to you today. What are you watching for on Super Tuesday?
I don't think there's going to be too many surprises. It's kind of what you covered before. I mean, President Biden isn't really facing any major challenges. I don't think anybody particularly expects Nikki Haley to pull off an upset or anything like that. I think we're probably just going to be waiting for some predictable results to come in. I mean, the biggest surprise will be if the ongoing situation in between Israel and Palestine has, a big effect on President Biden and, maybe what, if anything, Nikki Haley can bring out of this. I'm sure she's going to have a lot of explaining to do after this in terms of why she's continuing her campaign and if she chooses to do so. She may drop out. I mean, we don't know. I think that's probably going to be the biggest surprise or the biggest thing that we don't know coming out of this. But otherwise, I don't think there's anything terribly unexpected coming.
Yeah, I think that's probably some fair analysis. But, stay with Newsmax because as everyone has been pointing out, there are some down ballot races that we are keeping an eye on, including one in California. This has to do with the race to replace Dianne Feinstein and her seat there. The field includes Democratic Congress members Adam Schiff, Barbara Lee, and Katie Porter. On the Republican side, former baseball star Steve Garvey. California runs a nonpartisan top two primary system, so the one who gets the most votes, the two of them, go to the November election. So Mehek, just wanted to get your thoughts on what stands out to you about this race, what voters should be paying attention to.
Well, I think it's going to be really hard for a GOP candidate to pull this off. But again, I think this could be a testament to a vote against Democrats because of our economy today. Joe Biden has not been strong, whether it's the Bidenomics that has been rippling through our country, the invasion of our southern border and northern border. So there's a lot to look forward to as we continue to see what the polling shows us, but then also what Election Day brings. I expect Republicans to do better in this race than before, and it's going to really make a difference as we look at where our country is today. It's really critical for us to study this race as we look to 2024 and some of these other key races.
Armen, Armin, the same question to you. Again, these down-ballot races there, specifically in California. Adam Schiff making headway there, rising in the pollings for the late senator's seat.
Yes, it's very important for folks to understand. Take a word of warning from California's top two system, because it really opens the field up to gamesmanship. Adam Schiff is spending a lot of money to raise Steve Garvey up because he doesn't want to run against Barbara Lee. He's tight against Barbara Lee. He's got a 15-point lead against Steve Garvey. So while Garvey is right now leading amongst all candidates, Mehek is right. It's going to be very challenging for him to actually win this race. But with the right messaging, you can actually get very close to that 50% threshold. And really, it ends up just being all about turnout and getting out and voting. If you don't believe that you have a chance of winning, that you're not going to win. But if you do believe you have a chance of winning, get out there and vote. Turn those ballots in. You have a month to turn it in. Drop it in a mailbox. Give it to a drop box. Harvest it. Vote for the election. Vote with the election system that you have, not the one that you believe that you actually want. That's the critical message for voters here in California and, quite frankly, all over the country.
Yeah, we'll be watching, again, the outcome from that West Coast race. But Jonathan, if we could advance the conversation even to the general, we saw sort of how Michigan turned out with those uncommitted votes. There were a number there, significant, 100,000 people voted uncommitted, essentially not voting in favor of Joe Biden here. And you think ahead to those independent candidates, maybe RFK-J, Cornel West. I guess Marianne Williamson is still kind of in the race there, although she's on the Democratic side. But would those uncommitted voters look for someone other than Joe Biden come November? And could that create more hesitancy or concern for Democrats right now?
I think there were a lot of headlines made recently when Vice President Kamala Harris called for a ceasefire. Progressives have been trying to get the Biden administration to understand that is what most of us wanted for quite a while. And I think that is directly a result of those uncommitted voters and just kind of that messaging being consistent. So come November, I mean, if what a lot of people are not even calling these presumptive nominees, they're not even calling them yet. But if it's a Trump and Biden situation, I do think that a lot of these concerns that people have now, that we have all these choices. We don't have these nominees yet. We don't have vice presidential picks yet, at least on the right. I think they'll all be put aside, and people will be deciding between those two candidates if, in fact, they're Trump and Biden. I think Biden will be fine. I really do. I mean, I never try to predict an election because you can end up with egg on your face pretty easy that way. But I don't think the concerns that people have now, while they have all these other options, are going to really hurt him later. I think they're going to look at, the guy who said that he wants to, basically start World War III by encouraging Russia to attack our allies if they don't pay up. And then the guy who doesn't say that, it's not going to really be a hard choice by then. But I think now this is the time to make your voice heard. But come November, I really don't see that being a huge problem for the president.
And final thoughts to Mehek on that in response to Jonathan Harris.
Well, the only thing I'll agree with right there, Jonathan, is the fact that Biden is going to have to figure out what he's doing with his foreign policy because he is flip-flopped, and there's uncommitted voters. That's the radical left that's going to continue to wonder if the GOP is the right base for them. They're the Arab voters, they're black voters that are truly Joe Biden's base that he is losing, and he's losing in droves. But it's a clear choice. President Trump not only had the strongest national security, he had the strongest economic and foreign policy, and we have to look now at where we were 4 years ago. It was a lot stronger than where we are today. So I think the choice is really clear, not only for the GOP as we continue to vote this Super Tuesday, but also for some of those uncommitted voters, because we can't trust Joe Biden and his time has run out. It's been 3 years of havoc. And let's not forget, Joe Biden shut down our country. Joe Biden continued to shut down our schools. He is not the solution for progress in Americans moving forward.
Just to be clear, Trump is the former president. Biden is the president. I think phrasing is important there. Number one. Number two, all of these shutdowns that you're talking about were something that Biden inherited, and then he reopened the country. It's really, really important to stick to reality when we make some of these criticisms. Trump decided that COVID wasn't a big deal and that it would go away on its own. And then all those things shut down. And then we fired him, elected President Biden, and then the country reopened. That timeline is vital.
All right. We'll go to Armin. We'll give you the last word here. Wrap this up for us, and then we'll all head to break.
well, I'm going to be out there knocking on doors, getting people to vote today. It's going to be critical for folks to go out and exercise their right. Let's remember that Joe Biden's foreign policy chaos, he's gotten us into 2 wars. And let's not forget the awful withdrawal from Afghanistan, the snatching of defeat from victory, whereas everybody was saying Donald Trump was going to get us into wars, and that never actually happened. So let's remember the Democrat rhetoric and what they actually say and what they are actually doing, because they're pretty much guilty of everything they're accusing Donald Trump of doing.
Yeah, just
So
going to
get out
end it
there and let's
there.
vote.
A recent New York Times poll just pointing out one specific fact on this, that Trump is leading 46-40 with the Hispanic vote against Biden. Again, recent polling there. We appreciate everyone. Armin Kurdian, Jonathan Harris, Mehek Cooke, thank you so much.